Farouk, thanks for coming on to Social Dream Machine. This show is dedicated to creators making their first dollar online. For those that don't know you, would you mind just introducing yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, Jeremy. So my name is Farouk. I've been running a marketing agency for the past 3 years under different names. Today, my agency is known as Dry Desert. We basically build organic social media funnels for our clients. So we use platforms such as LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube to drive traffic for our clients, then build them landing pages and lead magnets to kind of drive that traffic to that, and then convert those traffic by nurturing the emails and just pretty much getting people to becoming customers. So yeah, we're kind of like a full done for you type of agency where we'll just handle everything from A to Z. Or if you feel like you want us to handle certain parts, we can also do that for you.
How has your relationship to money changed since you started the agency like 3 years ago? And how has the model changed for as far as charging? I'm sure it's changed over time, correct?
I just recently just added LinkedIn to, to one of those channels where I'm driving traffic for my customers. And the thing is like, because I had no specific platform experience on LinkedIn, I had to, I couldn't go and just sell this to my clients at the prices that I would normally sell maybe something such as YouTube or Twitter. And so I just started building these case studies where I just started going over to my clients and tell them, hey, look, I can offer you LinkedIn at 50% of what I would normally charge that for, and just kind of give that to you for that price. And then when I first started the agency, I was doing my case studies for absolutely for free. I would just go over to people. I'm like, hey, you want me to do something for you? Like, you got any problems I could help you with, toy around and stuff. And yeah, now these days it's more like high ticket. So when I first started, I was around, as I mentioned, free case studies. I started kind of testing, charging at around 1,000, 2,000, and then eventually reached the point where I could even offer like around $8,000 a month for in terms of a retainer, just to kind of handle so many different aspects of the funnel. So it has changed quite drastically, quite well, at least over time.
How do you know if someone could afford that 8K, or I guess is it the amount of value that's brought into how much money they're already making and some of the optimization improvements you're making? Is that kind of how it works?
If you build a phenomenal, let's say, funnel, and you're making your clients a lot of money, but a lot of money to them is like 10K or 20K a month. For some people, that's for some businesses that could be significant amount, but obviously I wouldn't be able to justify then charging 5-8K, because that would be eating pretty much all their margins. If I'm charging 1K and I'm making a client 20K, I know over time that I can then start charging more prices. But it's not, I usually tend to not lead with a high price before I actually end up making money for my clients. So it's usually, there's this lag where it's like, all right, I started making my clients more money, so now I can start justifying charging them more money.
Makes sense. How do you know that they're making it? Do you kind of tap back into their CRM somehow, or how do you know? I guess also just making sure that you're taking care of it and that how do you know that they're still, how do you track it, I guess, if you can?
We make it mandatory these days for our clients to let us know, to give us access to the CRM and to actually let us know what's going on behind the scenes, so we can actually track everything for them, set everything up for them as well. But yeah, when I first started, I was just counting on my clients to tell me, and sometimes some of my clients wouldn't tell me. That's how much of a beginner I was. They were like, it's none of your business. But these days I'm like, I can't really operate on this. I need to know, you guys are investing money with me. If you're spending 5-8K to work with me, then I need to make sure that I'm getting you the return on investment. So I need to be making sure that the money is coming in. And if I don't know how much is coming into your business, then I don't know if I need to be, what kind of improvements I need to make to actually get you that money. So it's very important to then know. So yeah, obviously, once I then know that information, I would be able to price accordingly.
Obviously, not every funnel is created equally, and it probably depending on the situation, but what are some best practices for optimizing a funnel, or how do you know if it's broken?
I think one of the most effective way to actually funnel traffic these days and even convert traffic is with using video content. So whether you're posting video on LinkedIn, whether you're posting video on Twitter or YouTube, or whether you're posting VSL on your website, that's one of those points where a lot of people are missing out on. So it's just they are trying to funnel traffic and they're trying to sell these high ticket services, but they're afraid to be on camera. And that could be a red flag for a lot of people, or at least in a sense, it could be hard to sell these really high ticket services when you don't exist on the internet in a sense from like a video standpoint. That's one of those ways that I think like a lot of people are missing out on when it comes to the funnel. Another thing as well is like people try to overcomplicate their funnels as well. That's a big amateur mistake. They'll see all these people, they're setting up these, they have multiple lead magnets, and um, they'll you have these people that have these upsells and cross sells, and all this kind of back end conversion mechanism set up. And the problem is like, well, it's good that you're working on all these conversion mechanisms and you're trying to add these sophisticated layers, but you don't even have any traffic coming into your funnel. So you have a bigger problem now. You need to be driving traffic into your funnel before you even worry about converting. Obviously, you want to make sure everything is set up and optimized properly, which is another amateur mistake too. Because it's like what happens here is like people, it's either they start driving traffic too early or they start trying to work on converting traffic too early. The way it's supposed to work, simple. You optimize all your sales assets, your landing pages, your lead magnets, your social media profiles first. Then you start driving traffic to it with your content or through networking and outreach. And then you start worrying about, all right, how can I then further optimize the conversions? But a lot of people, they start mixing up the order. It's supposed to be in this order if you want the best chances of actually seeing early success.
I read something on like Luke Matthews the other day, and he was saying that people are asking too much from some of their LinkedIn pages. Like they're pointing people in like too many different directions. I recently changed my like kind of just main link in there to like just book a call, like a free like consultation with me. Like, do you usually recommend that people kind of just have like one kind of main flow at least, or like, or what are your thoughts there? Probably because there's a million different things you could probably do.
I would say one major factor here is how big is your company. If you're just doing this for your own personal brand, then yeah, you want to keep this as simple as possible, especially when like how many products or services could you even offer when you're first starting a personal brand? Like you don't really have much, as you mentioned. Like if it's just like a book a call, maybe you have like a PDF file that somebody can download, then yeah, that's pretty much all that you have to display. But then you have, one of my clients, for example, they have, I believe, around 6 or 7 different products or services as part of their funnel, in which they have people kind of go from one product to another. But it's not like they just started like that over time. There's the book by what's his name, .com Secrets by Russell Brunson. So he goes over like this whole concept of the value ladder. It's like where you first start, where you have this one service, and you're just driving all that traffic to that one service. Over time, once you've exhausted the market and you've driven enough traffic and you find it hard now to convert people, you start introducing different products or services, maybe some that are lower ticket or higher ticket, to then be able to convert more people and get them into your funnel so that they eventually can funnel into the main product that you initially had. Right. But it's like, once again, you want to do this gradually and with time. Don't like, once another mistake that people make is just like they'll try to create all these different products and sub products and upsells and cross sells and all that. Like you haven't even figured out how to funnel traffic to your initial product or your service. Like there's a lot of people that need that initial thing. Like you don't need to make things complicated. So definitely, like, it depends on what stage you are at and how what you've done so far as a company or as a personal brand.
It kind of makes sense to me to like focus like on a high ticket first before you do like low ticket. What are your thoughts on that out of curiosity?
I absolutely agree with that. I mean, some people may have different approaches and they may start, as soon as possible with having these lower ticket products. The way I like to do it, and I mean, Luke Matthews, you're mentioning him, he does that quite well. So he has multiple lead magnets, but they're all free to subscribe to. So it'll be like a ChatGPT content guide or whatever else that he's offering. They're all for free. So you subscribe to any one of those and they all funnel you into his newsletter. And then from there, he's selling you it's just one product or service that he's selling you. In this case, right now, what he's focused on is his course that he's about to launch. Or yeah. So it's just, even Luke Matthews, who has over 100,000 followers, even he in his case is just kind of like, he just recently introduced the course and not a second page, because he had his ghostwriting services, right? But then just recently he offered this course, the paid course. So it's like, so if this guy, Luke Matthews, who has this big audience, just doesn't even have that many sub products and products and whatnot, then why should you? Like, you should be focused, as you mentioned, on getting traffic to that main service, perhaps having some free lead magnets, but nothing more than that when you're first starting.
Why do you think that people buy like high ticket items? Do you think that sometimes they're just taking a risk and they think that for whatever reason that that creative person or entrepreneur or solopreneur, however you want to call them, him or her actually, I guess, do you think that to some sort of degree they think that that person can get them whatever result they're looking for?
To even reach that stage, like to even sell something high ticket, like let's say you're selling something around 5K, like you need to have like a ton of social proof and a ton of authority in your niche to be able to even pull that off. Like you're rarely ever going to find anybody that's going to dish out 5K for the sake of it, right? Let alone 10K or whatnot. It happens over time. Whether you've established a specific authority or a reputation within a specific industry, or whether you have tons and tons of case studies, like it takes time. There's two ways to go about this, by the way. If you want to like skip your way to the top, or like just get to the top to begin with, it's either you start at the very bottom. So you start working for free. Let's say you start then charging 1K, you start charging 2K, you go into like more sophisticated like customers, you start charging 3, 4, 5, and kind of the way to the top, or you just skip to the very top. But to skip to the very top, you need to work for free, let's say, with some a very big brand, get a big brand name on your portfolio, and then from that, leverage that to get other big brands. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a big brand like, I don't know, like Apple. Like it could be a big brand within a specific industry that you're in. And that's what I did initially with my agency. I was in a very specific niche and I didn't go out of that niche at all. And so I just happened to be able to leverage my connections and work with the very best company within that niche. And then with time, people just all wanted to work with me because they're like, well, he's this guy, Farouk, he's working with the best guy. So, I mean, he's obviously the best then, right? And so, like, with time, people will then start wanting to work with you. But yeah, it's that one way or the other, the slow or the fast one. They both work. It just depends on which one you can pull off.
Generally speaking, too, like, do you believe in like, obviously, it probably again depends on the context of the situation and the product, but in general, like, how long should a landing page actually be? Like, I've seen ones that like scroll on for like ever, and then I've seen ones that are pretty short. So, thoughts on like length?
Low ticket products or like courses, or like their copywriters in general, they'll typically go for these like super long ones. And I mean, the reason that I don't ever do like these super long ones that you see that will keep on stretching and stretching and stretching. But the fact that people do them and they've been doing them for years and are still doing them shows you that obviously that it works, right? And I understand the idea behind it. It's supposed to nobody's going to actually, very few people are going to actually read the entire landing page. It's just more meant to just scroll through, to just stop all of a sudden, and more so overwhelm people with just the idea of like nonstop social proof. Like if you've seen Justin Welsh, if you go to his landing page for like his course, it's nonstop, just social proof, social proof, social proof. You keep on scrolling, it never ends. And it's just meant to overwhelm you. Like nobody's going to sit and actually watch and listen to all of this. It's just meant to just show you like, yeah, we have a lot of stuff going on for us. But typically I would go for like shorter landing pages, 7, 8, maybe 9 sections long. You wouldn't need more than that. Just mix in some social proof with what it is that exactly you do. And as I mentioned earlier, like make sure to have a VSL at the very top as well. The videos, they play a big role in actually, converting people, especially cold traffic. With warm traffic, you can kind of get away with having like a basic landing page with not much going on there because it's just, usually warm traffic, people just know you, or it's from a referral, so there's some sort of trust established. But when there isn't that initial trust, the VSL is going to help a lot because somebody's going to be able to watch you, even if it's like a 5-minute video. They're going to be able to get a better feel of who you are as a person, and so they'll be more comfortable than when they actually hop on a call. They'll be able to trust you better.
What is the purpose of the VSL in your eyes? Is it just to basically build trust and to kind of convey a story?
That's definitely one of the benefits. I would say the biggest benefit to a VSL is to make the whole sales process and the sales call like much more efficient. So because is basically like the method that I follow to creating VSLs is very simple. What I do is I usually record all my sales calls. And what I do is once I'm done with like all these sales calls, let's say I'll have a batch of like 20, 30 sales calls. I'll gather all of these sales calls and then I will usually I have my VA who goes through that. I'll have him collect all the different questions and objections that were brought up by the person, the prospect that I was talking to. And then what I do is I gather a tally of the different questions. And the most frequently asked questions are the ones that I will then address in the VSL. Typically, you'll address all these questions, 5, 6, 7 questions within the VSL. You obviously wouldn't literally just state the question and the answer, but you kind of address them with that flow. And when somebody watches the VSL, then typically then 80%, 90% of their objections are already answered. So when you hop on the sales call, it's just going to be much easier. It's just like, all right, well, you answered all my questions. Now I just have these additional questions, and then let's talk about the pricing, and then let's talk business, right? Whereas if you don't have a VSL, then you have to sit down for like at least 30 minutes and try to answer all these different objections. By the time you're done with all of that, the prospect's tired, you're tired. They're probably going to want to schedule another call afterwards. It just elongates the whole sales cycle. And yeah, once again, as you mentioned, it builds trust, and it just helps overall with just kind of motivating people to booking a call with you to begin with.
How do you look at the structure of like that landing page then? Like at the very top, you would have some sort of like maybe like dream outcome or hook, and then the VSL, and then maybe social proof, or like how do you over like big arching view of like how do you look at the whole thing?
Typically, I'll structure my landing pages like this. I'll have obviously we have the hero sections where you have the header along with a VSL, a call to action button. Right under that, maybe some of the big brands that you've worked with, if you've worked with any big brands. Underneath that, right away, social proof. So that could be in the form of video testimonials that you've gotten, especially like if they're numeric. You don't want a mistake that I see with testimonials on landing pages is somebody will just be like, it'll be just like some random like phone, like somebody's recording their phone. They're like, yeah, this guy did an amazing job. I mean, like it offers no value unless it's from like some sort of celebrity. Like it's not going to be relevant. So what I typically do instead is like when I'm recording a testimonial call with one of my clients, I'll hop on a call. It'll be a short 5-minute interview where I ask them specific questions. They answer that, and then I just add those to my landing page. So I'll have those scattered throughout. I'll have case studies as well, showing people exactly like where was my client before they started working with me, and where they are now after like we kind of started working. What was the outcome that we received? That's the same structure for both the landing page and for the actual interview for the testimonial. And then throughout the website, it's just more like explaining like the process, like what is it exactly that you do, who you are, what can they expect when they work with you. So just very general stuff. But quite honestly, most of the effort needs to be put into the VSL and in the social proof, because the whole purpose of the landing page and the VSL is to motivate somebody to hop onto like the sales call with you. So you want to make sure that it's just like you have to have an overwhelmingly high number of case studies and testimonials on your website, especially if you want to charge high ticket prices. If you don't have that, man, good luck. Yeah, you could maybe pull off 1-2K, but besides that, like if you want to start charging 5-10, like no, you need to have a lot of case studies, or you need to have a very strong referrals from somebody like within the industry.
How long are your case studies? Are they usually pretty lengthy, or like 5 pages, 10 pages? Or are they pretty short?
On my website, it'll be very simple. It'll almost like fit on like a 1-page frame. It's not meant to be like exhaustive, but in the actual case study, I usually send over like a Gamma doc. And in that Gamma doc, it depends on what it is, but it's also very simple. It's like structured before the transformation, after the transformation, and the process. And so it's like before, where was the client? After, it's like showing them screenshots of the different results we've brought them. So whether it's like how many subscribers they got into their email list, how many conversions they got, maybe snapshots from conversations that I had with the clients, graphs like LinkedIn traffic graphs or YouTube traffic graphs. So having those, and then obviously then you have the process. There's going to be a lot of people that want to know exactly what's going on. So you go into as much detail as possible, but you go into you go into 80% of the sauce. The other 20%, you just leave that on the side. You don't need to go into every little small detail. Just give them the overall idea. Tell them this is exactly how we drive traffic, or this is exactly how we, achieve this specific result. And afterwards, I think that's more than enough. Usually, if they have any specific questions, they can always ask you those on the sales call.
What's your thoughts on like just having a price there and a package versus just booking a call? Do you think that a lot of the times because it's high ticket, people still need to talk to someone?
Typically, you would not see somebody putting a price on their landing page unless it's like productized service. So a lot of the web design agencies, you'll see them do this these days. So it's high ticket. They'll charge like 3 or 4 or 5K a month subscriptions, but because it's like productized. The reason, for example, in my case, the reason I wouldn't ever put a price is because, as I mentioned earlier, like I manage so many different parts of your funnel. I'm like, I can't just give like one single price because like I have a client that just wants LinkedIn, just wants LinkedIn growth. I have another client that wants me to manage their LinkedIn, their Twitter, and their YouTube channels. I have another client that just wants me to optimize or to design a landing page for them. So if I were to put a different price tag for each one of those, it gets a bit sophisticated. Then at the same time, yeah, like usually if you can get somebody on a sales call with you, in case the price is a bit high for them, if you've been able to present enough of a good case, they may be able to tip the scale in your favor, where they'll then be willing to dish out that extra amount that they weren't putting in their head. Because usually, yeah, like somebody will go onto the call, they're maybe expecting to pay anywhere around 1.52K. You end up hitting them with a price tag of like 3K. They're like, it's a big difference. But then you're like, well, this is why we're doing that. This is the guarantee. This is the results we've got on other people. So somebody's going to be like, all right, I may be willing to do that. But it's until you've actually brought up a case and talked to them about it and answered any specific concerns. And let's say they can't actually afford to get like, let's say they can't afford to purchase your service, which is at 3K, and they actually have a very like limit at 2K. Well, then because you have them hop on a sales call and you didn't disqualify them by putting the price on your landing page before that, what happens is you're like, all right, well, how about this? I can present you this solution where we cut out some of the services that we typically offer in the 3K package, and that way I can give you the package at 2K. Right. And they're like, well, okay, let's do that, or you can then negotiate on the sales call. Whereas on the landing page, if it's a static price, there isn't that negotiation opportunity. So that's why it would make a lot of sense. But once again, it really depends on the product or service that you're offering.
On your sales call, do you do like a slide deck, or how long is the call? Usually like 30 minutes. And like, how do you handle that sales call as well?
Typically tend to talk to like busy agency owners or busy SaaS founders. They do not have the patience for presentation slides and all that. And the service that I'm offering, it doesn't even necessarily need that. I may sometimes share my screen, maybe, but very rarely. I'm not a big fan of that, to be honest. I've hopped on sales calls before where I was the customer and somebody's pitching me something on like a slide. I'm just not going to be able to pay attention. You're better off just sending over a pitch deck or a case study or whatever after the call is done, and just having normal conversations, almost like you're having dinner with someone. You're asking them what their problems are, and then you present the different solutions that you have. They're probably going to ask for more questions. If they're a big SaaS team, for example, they may have multiple decision makers. So in that case, what you do is you give them all the resources that they need. You may schedule another call, where the other decision makers are involved. But yeah, typically the sales call is like around 15 minutes, 20 minutes tops. People are busy. They don't have time to sit down to watch you rant about your 1 hour pitch deck and whatnot. Some industries that works. I have a buddy of mine who exclusively just does pitch deck presentation calls, and he does well, but it just really depends on your industry. But most of the times, I would say most of the people that I've talked to is in the agency space, at least, they don't need presentations, pitch decks, and they've never used them, and they probably never will.
Where do people find you, Farouk, if they want to follow you on LinkedIn, and what's your website?
So my website is drydesert.co, and you can follow me on LinkedIn at Farouk Bacha. I'm also on Twitter at Build and Scale, and YouTube as well, Farouk Bacha as well. So you can find me on these different channels. And yeah, Jeremy, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you.
Appreciate you, sir.